wanted to begin with is there has been a letter written to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken by the Congress representatives regarding the human rights abuses in Pakistan, and particularly against the Imran Khan's party. And what the premise of that, the argument of that letter is that because there are human rights abuses in Pakistan, therefore, US should stop the aid and the IMF program, the support to Pakistan. Now, the question becomes, will it make any difference? That's question number one. Question number two, the Imran Khan's sister has claimed that they are going to go and file a lawsuit against Donald Lu, who conspired to throw out or topple Imran Khan's government in Pakistan. So there are two conflicting um, statements. One is PTI's argument in Pakistan is death to America. America is responsible for taking down our government. But at the same time, there is a lobbying effort happening in America by PTI or Imran Khan supporters saying that US should stop the aid and the IMF program and help stopping the IMF program support to Pakistan. Two separate, two conflicting, I guess, approaches that they are taking.
Yeah, unfortunately, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a heavy topic. We have a lot going on right now in the world, especially with what's happening in Palestine. But this is ongoing, as we can see. The letter that was signed and submitted, I saw a lot of familiar voices. We have Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. We have Greg Cesar, who's from Austin, a lot of progressives on there. And these are people that, I know that our local Pakistani-American community that are PTI supporters have been lobbying and have been pushing these individuals. Ilhan even, went to Pakistan not too long ago to meet Imran Khan before he was disposed. So, I know that these efforts have continued. We've seen that, some of our local or national Pakistani-American organizations have said that this is their primary focus is just to continue pushing our elected officials to say something, to do something about what they're calling human rights abuses in Pakistan. And, I want to say that it's good. I wish that the Pakistani-American community would talk to our elected officials about so many different issues which matter. I wish that they would talk about human rights abuses which occur in Pakistan, not just Pakistan, everywhere. And we know that, unfortunately, human rights abuses have not started, just with Imran Khan not being prime minister or whatever has happened subsequently. There have been lots of issues over the years. And myself personally, I remember I brought up one of those issues with Asia. What was her name? The sister that was. Yes, I actually brought that up with one of these large national groups. That how come we don't say anything about her, or how come we don't talk to these senators or congressmen that we have connections with? And at that time, the representative for this Pakistani-American group said that, oh no, we just focus on foreign policy. So it's very intentional, what we decide to do and what we don't decide to do. The lawsuit against Donald Lu, this kind of rhetoric against Donald Lu, this is just, more of the same. This is just nonsense, honestly speaking. The facts of the matter are that, what happened, it wasn't derived by the United States government. This is something that happened in Pakistan internally. And, but I'm not surprised that you're going to see multiple narratives, because that's often what you have to do to try and get something accomplished. You're going to come in from different ways, different perspectives, different groups to try and get what it is that you want to get done. Yeah. But I would just say that, I think it's a horrible idea for Pakistani Americans to push for the end of aid to Pakistan. Pakistanis, we know that there's lots of people who really need that aid. So I hope that everyone kind of keeps their, focuses on the bigger picture. The bigger picture is not just Imran Khan, it's, millions and millions of people.
Right. Yeah. And let me pose a question to Amina. Amina, there, as Sumbul rightly so mentioned, there has been human rights abuses against the minorities, not by the state by itself, but there are, groups in Pakistan who operate, and you saw what happened to the Christian community, what happened to the Hindu community. And there are a lot of plenty of other issues which I think Pakistani diaspora can very well influence on, which is the education, which is up leveling the health system, which I guess one thing that I think the Apna does very well is, supporting the healthcare system in Pakistan. But I think they've done some substantial work in their capacity. So shouldn't Pakistani Americans, unite? And also, we talk about democracy, we talk about minority rights in US. Well, because we are a minority here as a Muslim and also as a Pakistani, but we should also worry about the minorities and what happens to them back in Pakistan.
Yes, Faraz, thank you so much for
Yeah.
asking that. And assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for having me on the show, Ms. Basab. It's always a pleasure. And Sumbul, you as well. You mentioned the diaspora, the Pakistani diaspora, and I would like to take the moment to just contextualize what the American Pakistani or Pakistani-American diaspora is. So we are a fairly young community. We started, the Pakistani-Americans started migrating in the, maybe some in the 60s, 70s, mostly in the 90s and then 2000s. The community itself is still learning how to participate within the democratic system in America. And Sumbul and I have worked for a number of years around electoral politics and democracy and political participation within our diaspora communities. And what we have noticed is that we are at a very good place right now. Our community is finally understanding how to play the game. Our community, and we mentioned that letter earlier to President Biden from Congress, our community has understood how to leverage your voice and your power in the halls of Congress. And that is a very positive thing. But what our community lacks, or let me rephrase that, what our community still needs to work on is perhaps how do we message ourselves? How do we come together collectively? We have some wonderful organizations. You mentioned UPNA, that has been, the backbone of the diaspora community for a number of decades now. There are many other diaspora foundations and organizations that are doing amazing work. But what we're missing at this point is a unified message, a unified strategy, where the leadership of these organizations, diaspora organizations, need to come together and figure out what are our priorities, what's our vision for ourselves here, and then also what is our vision externally with our connection and our identity to Pakistan, right? And once we figure that out, then all the pieces are just going to lay themselves out. You mentioned the human rights abuses. Absolutely, there are human rights abuses going on around the world. Unfortunately, those in our communities who are most affected are the most vulnerable, minorities, women, and children. And so if there is a time to bring up the voice of the unvoiced, I absolutely think that we need to do that at every juncture, whether it's within our local communities, whether it's with nonprofits, whether it's with larger organizations, or even with congressional leaders. But there's a mechanism, there's a way, there's a method to do it, right? So we locally, and then regionally, federally, nationally, and then internationally. So we need to work within, I feel like the diaspora community still is working on how do we navigate. So we have these emotions and we have these feelings, and all of these things are coming from a very good place in our hearts. But where do we park these feelings and these concerns? That's where we need to focus on human rights concerns, human rights abuses. There are organizations that are working specifically around that. That's where we need to park our concerns. That's where we need to collectively come together, rally around with other organizations, with other communities, so that we can have a stronger voice.